everyone, it's Mrs. Thomas, and I'm sorry I haven't seen you for a while. I went on vacation, and life has been kind of busy, but here I am. I'm at swimming again, and I wanted to show you. Remember I talked about the beautiful area, and I think I showed you around Spring Lake Pool what it looks like? Well, it's a rainy day, and one of my favorite things to do is be outside or inside, mostly outside, on one of these rainy days in the summertime where it's warm outside, but the air, it seems like it's dripping from the sky. So I'm here back at Spring Lake, and I wanted to show you what's going on outside and then read you a book. So let's go. Here we are in the parking lot. Here's somebody walking their dog, and I wanted to show you, hopefully they're still there. There was a mother duck with its babies. Let's see. It was over here. Where did it go? Here, Mama Duck. Look, there's water running down here. Where did that Mama Duck go? Let's see. I saw her walking over here. Let's see if we can find her. Look, the water's coming through. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? So I'm going to read you a book called The Curious Garden. And to me, this seems like a magical garden. Look at all those reeds. Remember we saw, did I show you turtles the last time? Let's see. Here, Mama Duck. I wonder where she went. Maybe she walked up here. Maybe she saw that dog and was nervous. Look at this. Isn't this cool? Isn't that amazing? And look at the way I love watching the rain land on a pond or a lake. Look at the circles. What shape is that? What shapes? They're circles. Do you know what it reminds me of? Oh, look, do you see that bird? Anyway, do you know what the circles remind me of? They remind me of that acorn project that we did. Remember we took the acorn tops and we dipped them in water and we made art with the circles that those acorn tops made? Wonder what kind of bird this is. Look at that. It's hanging out on those dead branches in the middle. I bet he hears us. What do you think? Let's see. Isn't this beautiful? Look, there's a raft. How cool would it be to have a raft and a pond in our backyards? And we could kayak and canoe. Look at that fountain. Isn't it beautiful? Sometimes when I'm here, I can hear the frogs. So I don't see that Mama Duck. So I'll try and find her another day, okay? I wonder if that dog scared her. What do you think? Do you think ducks like dogs? I don't think so. So we're walking back to the car. Let's see. Does it look like I'm going really fast? I'm really not going that fast. Oh, starting to rain a little harder. Here, duck. Here, Mama Duck. Look, do the circles get bigger when the rain gets harder or smaller when the rain gets harder? Look, are they bigger than before? Oh, look who's in the corner there. There's some ducks. There you are. Those are some more grown-up ones. Swimming. Maybe I'll read Make Way for Ducklings next. What do you think? But today I'm going to read a book called The Curious Garden. So let's go back in the car. I'm going to show you all this area. And then, a bird just flew by. Look up there. What do you see up there? There they are swimming. Margot's up there. Oh my. Ha. So sometimes people go fishing, and I was just walking back to the car and I was thinking, what is that? Is that a real fish? But look, that's a fake fish. Somebody dropped, it's called a lure, I think. And it entices, it brings the, I'm gonna flip it back to me with my crazy hair, my crazy summer hair. But those are plastic fish that people use in order to, oops, I flipped on you. I wonder if that's gonna be, here we go, let's see. Hopefully that will stay. Remember how I'm gonna use an eyeglass case. Here we are. Sorry everybody about that wild journey, flipping around. Someday, maybe someday I'll be a movie director and I'll figure it all out. So this is called The Curious Garden. I love that picture. Do you see the raindrops on my glasses? Let's see. I'm gonna use my shirt as my windshield wiper. This is by Peter Brown. I love that picture. Look, those are topiaries. Topiaries are bushes or trees that are cut in the shape of animals or people. Look, I went and listened to this author at the book. They have a big book fair in Baltimore, and he signed it. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside, even on drizzly days, like this one. While everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam's one of our friends at school, right? Made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. Have you ever seen railway bridges like that? I think they're so pretty. I love the repetition of the arches. Look, there he is standing there, and he's running, and he sees the stairwell. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last things he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems. That means when you trim them up to help them grow, you cut off the dead parts so that it has more energy inside of it to grow new parts. But the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. Look, have you ever heard about people singing to their plants? And that makes them grow? He's singing to his plants. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Look, there are the old railroad tracks still. He's made a bucket. How do you think he made that bucket? First it started like that, where he was pouring and there was too much water. Now, I wonder, did he drill some holes in there or make some holes? Sometimes I make holes by hammering nails through metal. That's what I did for some of my planters that didn't have holes, and I wanted them to have holes. So he might have used a drill or nails. I don't know. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Look, isn't that beautiful? Over the next few months, Liam and the curious garden explored every corner of the railway. Look, remember? That was all concrete, and the garden is spreading. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. I think that's him. He looks sad, doesn't he? I wonder what's going to happen in the spring. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. So look at him preparing. What's he doing? What are some of the ways that we can learn about things? Is he reading about them? That's what we're doing right now. We're reading and learning about a garden. And you know, even though this isn't a true book, things like this really do happen. After 3 cold months, oh, I read this before, but look, I love the way the pictures aren't like this and like this, but they're across the 2 pages. So this piece about learning and about preparing for spring is right here, and that picture goes with it. And then this one about after 3 cold months, the snow began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. That all goes across this page. So that picture goes with this part. Usually it goes boom, boom. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. Does he look? He looks a little distraught, a little forlorn, a little sad and discouraged. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. Look at that. And what's he doing again with the bird? He's singing. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. That's what I love about spring and summer. All the plants that you planted the year before, suddenly they're bigger and they're bursting and they found new places. That's what happened. Will helped me plant some plants last summer, and now they're so much bigger. They started out like this big, and now they're like this big, spread out on the ground. The garden was especially curious about old, forgotten things. Look, it's growing around. What is that? A car. And it's growing out of a window. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. What is that? What's hiding under there? Is that a stop sign? And what's hiding under there? A fire hydrant. Why does he not want them on there? What do stop signs help us do? Stop, right? What do fire hydrants help do? The fire department can come and attach a hose so it can't be covered either. We want to keep it open. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. Look at that. That man is surprised. Look. Do you think that he planted it for that man, maybe? Look, he looks like a spy or a detective outfit. And he's planting them, I think, for people. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. Look at that. All these people loved what he was doing, and they've decided to do it. I wonder if that's a big, big garden of sunflowers. Does that look like sunflowers? Oh, and that looks like a vegetable garden, maybe. I love it. Look at all those gardeners. Look up there. Oh, doesn't that make that city look beautiful? I love plants. Look, down the steps, and they're having a picnic. And you know what those are? Those are meters. When you park on the street and you have to put money in the meters. I was just in Hamden yesterday and I had to put money in the meter. But they're having a picnic because grass is spread. And that, what is that? That's a pier. And those look like giant lily pads, right? And look, didn't I tell you these are topiaries? What animal is that? Maybe a moose and an elephant. And what's that? It's a giraffe. And look at that tall. What did they make in there? They made tree houses. That is so cool. I love it. Look at all the shapes and designs. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Look. A man now, and he has children, and he has a wife. Look at that. Oh, I love that garden. I knew you would love it. So let's see. This is an author's note. Peter Brown, who wrote the book, wrote this part, and I'm going to read it to you. It often seems impossible for nature to thrive in a city of concrete and brick and steel. But the more I've traveled and the closer I've looked at the world around me, the more I've realized that nature is always eagerly exploring the places we've forgotten. You can find flowers and fields and even small forests growing wild in every city. You just have to look for them. So this is a message that he's writing for us. On the west side of Manhattan, New York City, that's where I grew up for some of the time. There is an old elevated, meaning, what does elevator mean? It takes you up, right? So elevated means a higher up railway called the High Line. Its trains rumbled high above the city streets for decades, but in 1980, the High Line was shut down and forgotten. I was there last fall. Without people and trains getting in the way, nature was free to redecorate. They've made it walkways for people now. Over the years, the rusty rails and gravel slowly gave way to wildflowers and trees, and if you look at the railway today, you'll see a lush garden that curves above the streets and between buildings. From grass bursting through cracks in a sidewalk or a tuft of goldenrod clinging to a brick wall to a meadow winding along an abandoned railway, nature can thrive in the unlikeliest of places, the most surprising places. All of this made me curious. What would happen if an entire city decided to truly cooperate with nature? How would that city change? How would it all begin? So that's what made Peter Brown think of this imaginary story, this fiction story, and make up the story. He got the idea from looking at things. And you know, I bet you all get ideas from looking at things all day long. I know I do. That's why I came up with ideas. Remember, like those, they look like pine cones, and we made trees out of them for our Christmas ornaments in the pots. That's one of those ideas I got by walking on the sidewalk in front of St. David's and looking at those seed pods. I thought, what can we do with them? And you do that every day. I saw that in the classroom, and I bet you're doing that when you're not in the classroom too. Will you send me some pictures of what you're doing? I love you all. I'm sorry the story was a little bit longer or a lot longer. Hope you liked it though. Bye. I missed you a lot.